Yep,
So if you,
you did it.
nice. And if you don't want to be recorded, you can stop your video from your end. And that way your face won't be on the YouTube once it gets uploaded here. So I got a couple people in the chat and some emails. Hervé, do you want to get us going?
Yes.
All right, go right ahead.
Hi, I have one mushroom. I send you the link. Maybe if you
Oh, you sent the link?
could you open it?
Yes. Ah, very nice. You want to tell
Yes.
us about it?
Okay. I don't know if we have shown that before. It's a really cool mushroom. You know, it looks like nothing else. I found it in an area that's sandy and acidic. And this is an area where you have mountain laurel. This is in Tamarack Park in East Brunswick. You know, it's Cretaceous, it's sandy, it's acidic, you know, so you have, and it's probably, I suspect, because it's growing very well there, I suspect it likes it there, sandy and acidic. So it's Calostoma. Calostoma means beautiful moth, okay? And the moth is, you know, the red part. Can you move to the next picture, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, right here.
Yes. So you have this type of olive-shaped, you know, head on top of a short stalk. And on the top of the head, you have this little red thing that looks like red lips. So it's called also hot lips, beautiful mouth. It has like a name like this, okay? And this the red part is what is supposed to contain the spores. I don't know that much about it. It's called also aspic. Because like there's this type of gelée thing that looks like an aspic dish, you know, with some inclusion in jelly. Okay.
Yeah, I think the idea is correct. It's definitely a calostoma, um, and I got to look it up. But I think what is it, Cinnabarina or Cinnamomia, whatever it
Yeah.
is, the cinnamon one.
Yeah.
I think that has these little, kind of fish egg looking structure right underneath the little the ball on top. Um, I think the other two that we have around here have some kind of collar, which would be like a membranous layer right underneath um, the ball on top.
Yeah, it's like where the veil would be or something.
Yeah, it looks like you can clearly tell it burst up through this veil, and they call it like a collar. But I don't think Cinnabarinum has that collar. Ravenellii, I think, does. I know Lutescens does.
Okay. So you don't think this is Cinnabarinum?
No, I do.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's see.
The spores on the other one were super cool. I bet these ones are as well.
Yeah, these are always fun to find. We find Lutescens in the Pine Barrens all the time, and that's a sandy soil. Cool. Just that one?
I have more. Okay, I have more pictures, maybe because I would like to see to show a side view. Uh, is it this one, maybe? Is it the same one? Okay, copy address. Where is the chart?
Yeah, because these.
Okay, I send you another address here.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is the observation of the same colony. Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, and I think I have side view here, side views on it. Yeah, here we see better here. You see the stalk
Right.
here.
Yep. Yeah, and that stalk, these are funny. They go down a little ways. You know, I've found them before where the stalk is a good 2 to 3 inches.
Yeah, I think this is really unusual, you know.
Yeah, it's an alien looking thing for sure.
If somebody's interested in seeing them, I take you there, sit in East Brunswick.
Yeah, so right here, if you guys can see where my cursor is, the other at least lutescens. I'm not quite sure on Ravenellii, um, but lutescens would have a yellow collar right here, very clear. So cool.
Yeah, that one's a beauty.
Right. So I do have Lauren. Do you want to go, or do you want me to go to the emails? I will go to the emails. All right. So, Gary, are you with us?
I think
Don't see.
I think he said he might not make it tonight, but I'm not sure.
All
Oh,
right,
that was Lydia. Never
yeah, that
mind.
was Lydia. But let's look at his mushroom either way. I can't. Yeah, I'm not sure. Some kind of bluet, it looks like. I downloaded this already, didn't I? So these are all the photos that I have from people tonight. Looks like some kind of Lepista, I would think, but since they're not here, we don't need to spend too much time on it. Anyone else kind of think that might be a Lepista?
If it was, what color would the gills be, Brandon?
Probably have a little bit of a pinkish, purplish hue.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. I think that the spores are supposed to be a pink, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple of those Lepistas that can be like it might be a faded nuda, but I find these more white with like a very faint purplish lilac coloration to the stipe and cap that I don't think are nuda. And I find them grown on grass just like that. Why won't this open? All right. John, are you here with us? John's not with us either.
Yeah, I don't see him in the list of participants.
Well, he only sent this one photo. He mentions that he thinks it looks like Amanita pantherina. 3.5 to 4 inches tall, cap 2.25 wide, bulbous, tapering upward. Sorry, not the greatest photo, and it's just the one photo. So I think I probably would agree that it's an Amanita. Igor, where do you think? Could it be pantherina or?
I was away from my computer. Can you show the picture, please, again?
Yeah, sorry. This is annoying the way that this is making me go through these steps here. Yeah, it's just this one photo, Igor.
Well, Pantherina is a European species. It doesn't occur here in North America. We're presumably dealing with Section Amanita here. I do not recognize the species. It does look like Pantherina because I did see it in Europe when I traveled a few years ago. But no, brown caps and sort of maybe grayish, white off-white pyramidal warts. Yeah. I don't know. Have to see the base.
Yeah.
It could be section validate too, so cannot be excluded from the from consideration. So, yeah, but definitely not Pantherina. We do
Right.
have Pantherinoid species here, but not that species.
All right, let's see who we got next. Doug, you with us, bud?
I
All right. This is Doug Meckel, right?
yeah, I had a little issue with my technology, so I used a pad and I was signed in as somebody else initially. So
Oh, gotcha. You're
yeah.
good. Let me find where we're starting here.
Yeah, I found a lot of stuff. I submitted a number of them. I don't think
This
that's
is your first one, right?
nope.
Oh, that means I might have skipped somebody.
Yeah,
that was Lydia, but we'll go to her next.
that was from last week.
These are all out of order. I apologize.
Yeah, mine are the IMG, the image files.
7410.
So
I don't know how to just open this up.
just open up now.
All right, that'll work.
Yeah.
So you're asking if this is the crowded parchment.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing.
Could be. Looks pretty wet. Is that right?
Yeah. It's interesting because I've seen this all over the place, and then I had a lot of true turkey tail and false turkey tail also.
Yeah. So first of all, crowded parchment. I'm not familiar with that. Would that be Sterium complicatum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to look at the Latin name. I don't know. Can you see me right now or no?
Yes,
I can't
we
see.
can.
I
Yes.
cannot, but they can.
Therium, Complicatum.
Plicatum.
Yeah.
It could be. Were these lobes pretty small?
Yes. Well, I mean, they were like thumbnail size,
Yeah.
maybe smaller, between like thumb and index.
And what color on the underside, Doug?
I don't recall. I had done it before. I had some other pictures, and I think I submitted this one. This is probably not the best. So, yeah, you could move on. This one, I'm not sure when this was taken, but yeah, this is on the end of a log, and I had this everywhere. When it was younger, it looked a little bit more almost like glutinous, moist, which is why I thought it was the crowded parchment.
That should be bright orange on the underside when it's fresh.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the underside is a bit more colorful than the upper side, actually. I noticed. I think it's complicated, no?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it could be, but there's also, a couple other things it could be.
Yeah.
Without
So
looking at
this,
the underside and doing some scratch tests and things like that.
Because we see a lot of it right now. And complicatum doesn't mean complicated. It means folded together.
folded together. Ah, okay. I'm just
Because
looking.
complicated means folded, and explicate means unfolded,
Okay.
So complicated means folded together.
Yes.
Did you try cutting these caps, Doug?
I did not. I came across them, and the color was so distinctive, and the form. I thought that might have a clue. When I looked at things that looked like it, just in my mushroom guides, they didn't have that color, so that's why I was a little off on that. I mean,
What
these
did you come across that was a different color that looked like it?
just looking now, I did not note it. I was thinking that pinwheel thing, and then the other. I mean, because it did have the gills underneath. I don't have a good image of that. They were, they were like true gills. You could really see them, and they were pretty deep.
And what color were they?
I believe they were a lighter color, of the same color as the cap.
They were probably white, and you were just seeing the
Yeah,
cap
it's probably
is
just seeing the light through the cap.
yeah, caps are thin on. If Mike, are you hinting at Mycena hematopsis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't the also known as the elf cap you're talking about? No, that's Hycena. No, it's something else.
I'm sure they would call hematopsis the, blood bleeding cap or something.
Right, yeah, because I have Slovacian. Yeah, all the ones that were in here, none of them quite looked like what and I'm just looking at Peterson's guide and some other stuff. So, okay.
It might be, we need more, for all of these, I'm going to, moral of the story on all of the mushrooms you sent in, we just need more information. We need a photo of the gills, the gill attachment. This doesn't look like the best lighting for a mushroom identification either. Oftentimes we want to see what the stem looks like, if there are any characteristics on the stem. So yeah, just this one photo, it's going to be tough to give you a definite answer on any, even an obvious mushroom.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it was a small grouping of them, and I hadn't seen it before, made me unwilling to sort of take them out of in sutro. That was the thing. I've tried using the selfie thing on the phone to get the gill pictures, and that's worked some of the time.
A little hand mirror will sometimes let you get a better photo.
Okay, good to know. And I think this is
because we'll likely run into a similar issue with this one here, because this is just the one photo as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, this is a really, really good photo of the cap in situ photo.
Okay. And I just thought they were so distinctive looking. And, once again, when I looked through, these actually looked a little like the color and everything of the elf cap, but they didn't quite have the point.
And what is elf cap?
Elf cap is, how would you say it? I'm just
Hygroscipe acutoconica.
Hybroscetum acutoconicedum. Yeah. Once again, my Latin is really weak, so
yeah. So
But the
maybe
cap
might be a hygroscopy. One of the things with hygroscopy is that it's going to have a viscid or slimy cap. So if you run your finger across the cap, they call them wax caps. It'll have a waxy kind of glabrous feel. And that's pretty true across, Hygropheraceae, all those hygroscopy, which is not something else. Hygropluis, I think it is something. But yeah, all those things are going to have some kind of waxy, either cap and stem or just the cap. But that's an easy way to figure out if you have a hygroscopy.
Yeah, I was doing some trail work in the woods when I came across these, so I wasn't exactly in total photography mode. But I like the idea of bringing a little hand mirror with me, and I might have to just pull some out and cut them apart. You know what I mean? Because they probably have.
You don't have to be, you don't have to be shy, grab the big one. There's still 3 little ones, and picking that thing is not, the big one's already opened up. It's dropped a lot of its spores. And as long as you're not just putting it in your pocket, you're going to shake some more of those spores out. So you're not hurting the population of this thing by picking that big one, flipping it over, getting a picture of the underside, taking it home, getting a spore print.
Okay.
Because what's interesting about this, and I think I think you have another Mycena, possibly. I don't know I'm trying to actually actively learn Mycena right now. But if you see down here, it looks like you have some pretty fuzzy feet, and it's got that Mycena fuzz where it's kind of like erect strands of mycelium shooting straight out.
And if you look at where it is in situ, it looks like it might have had some animal fecal matter that it's engulfing too.
Maybe.
And I don't know if that helps or not to figure out what it is.
It would.
Okay. And these were just picturesque the way they came up. And this was, I think, in the local park. Another smaller one.
That is a nice photo.
Yeah, and I think that's like a brittle gill. Is that what I'm thinking of?
I know that common name. I think that brittle gill is a russula, and this is not a russula.
No, I'm wrong on that. Yeah,
not a
wrong.
russula.
No, wrong. You're right. Exactly wrong common name.
I mean, again, for someone that is right now trying to figure out what's a Mycena and what's not a Mycena, I'm learning that definitely to get it to a species, you got to do micro on them. But this might be another Mycena. This might be one of those big Mycenas.
Yeah, I mean, they all had a similar sort of gestalt to them. I was looking at some of the smaller stuff because typically I go for the larger fungi that might be edible to check out. So that was just kind of, I think I was just walking my dog in the park. Oh, and there's the underside of that one, if that helps. It's pretty fuzzy, but you can see it's pretty deeply gilled.
I don't know. Anyone else have opinions? Does anyone think this one and the last 2 before it were all 3 of them Mycena?
I think it's possible. It'd be really, really good to see the more detail of the gills.
Okay. I think next time I'll get some shots. I'll be a little bit more precise.
Yeah, because you're finding cool stuff. I'd like to see some better photos so that we can give you at least get into it and try to figure out what they are.
I was just thinking
the past few weeks you found cool stuff,
and most of it I found in my my backwoods. That's one of the things is it's really rough terrain, and if I'm in there working with the chainsaw, it makes it a little less conducive. I'm not just necessarily foraying, but yeah. So cool. That's a good idea. I mean, I can just bring a little side mesh bag with me too to bring some stuff home and to just do a little bit more work afterwards. Like I did a couple before, and I did spore prints, and of course they're white spore prints because most things. But that's how.
Even that first picture on that last one, if you would have just plucked one for your second photo and just laid it down next to them,
yeah,
you'd have been perfect.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, Doug.
You're welcome.
All right, and I skipped over someone with a Lepista. I think that was Lydia. Lydia, are you with us?
I don't see her.
All right. Well, I looked at it real quick, and I tend to agree. Oh, she's got some. I found these gorgeous. Yeah, so she suspects they're wood bluets, so Lepista nuda. She thinks the stem is thin proportionally, and that not a lot of the bluet images that she's seen are this electric purple. And the hands you're about to see for scale are a 6-year-old's. Given the setting where it was found, doesn't seem like a Cortinarius setting. The streaks on the stipe here look good. Overall gestalt looks good. It's kind of got that almost translucent quality to it. So what do you guys think?
Do they all have an umbo like that?
Looks like it. Boom.
I mean, I've never found a nuda, and I didn't. I mean, like I've been finding, I have a Cortinarius in my thing, and there's no umbo there, but it's a very similar purple.
Yeah, well, that's why this isn't a beginner mushroom in it.
Hey, Brandon.
Because, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I have never seen a bluet with such a thin, narrow stipe. They're always very bulbous, especially at the bottom. Have you seen bluets with stipes that narrow? I mean, I've never seen them even remotely close to that narrow.
It's a good point.
It does look busted off as well.
Yeah, I think we lost the bottom.
Even so, normally when I find them, I mean, I don't know, and maybe it's just where I'm at or something, but even the top would be thicker than, like a lot thicker than that. And I'm not saying that that's not what they are or anything. I'm just saying I noticed how narrow it is.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good thing to look at, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the flesh on that cap looks awfully thin for the light to be shining through like that.
Yeah, I've never seen it like. I mean, I would be afraid to eat it just based on on the differences. It's just interesting. That's all.
I agree, because I think right when we first started, I had mentioned that I find these bluets that don't quite look like bluets. The ones that I find have this same. The stem is like you said, less robust than what you see for Nuda. But those are normally paler, and this has that deep, the right color.
Yeah, I think this might be something else. We need to see a shot of one of the gill attachment on a younger one. They're normally enrolled. Margin of the cap is normally enrolled. This is not. This is something else, I think.
Yeah. Well, it could be something else in Lepista.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is Sordatus one? I don't want to just do research and have you guys watch me do it. So I'm trying to do it from my phone.
Yeah, we can watch.
Yeah, is Sordatus, Lepista Sordatus something?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Sordida.
Sordida.
It's got a beefier stem too.
Not if you look at like, well, this is Wikipedia, but let's see if I'll just share that.
Well, maybe not.
Like, that looks pretty good. Look, it's got the umbo.
Yeah, that feels more close.
I think the problem that...
Oh, that zoned one. Did you see that picture up there? Like, looks like it could be a doppelganger. Look at that one right there.
This one?
Yeah.
So I remember looking at this before, and I think it's a European species, which this is a UK website right here. Sturdier stems and rust brown spores. Yeah, the spores would be huge here, right?
Does it have an odor?
I don't believe she reported one, but I'll double check.
Because sordida means foul or like dirty. So there is something dirty about this mushroom. Apparently.
This says perfumed or floral.
Okay.
But I don't know this website, so it's probably not a great one to be looking at.
Perfumes and floral are usually covering up the dirty, and I don't know if that's what they're getting at either.
So First Nature is a site that I do trust, and it's a European site.
Man, that one photo too was very translucent looking as well.
Yeah.
Up from there. That
right.
one right there.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. That's like, it's almost the right hue as well.
But that's the thing. Do we have Lepista nuda or Sordida here?
I'm looking on Mushroom Expert, and it doesn't say much about Sordida, but it does say that it definitely has the umbo.
Well, it's a cool share. I wish she was here. But I think everyone that chimed in saying give pause to Lepista nuda is probably correct there. Agree with Lauren. I would not be eating this thing. Cool.
And bluet is probably a transcription of the French for blue, like bleuet, bleuet, which means something blue.
We'll take that. We'll take your word for it, Hervé.
It's very likely.
Igor, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you care to go? All right. You want to tell us about this one, Igor?
Well, I have several mushrooms to show, and all of them came from our last foray at Smithville, which was wonderful. It's a very interesting place. I think owing to the exclusive ecology and geology. I know there's something special about that whole part of New Jersey, sort of outside of the realm of the Pine Barrens, but not quite, the kind of woods that you see, typically more north, maybe like in places like even Somerset and Mercer County, kind of upland, deciduous woods. Even though it's the same trees, I've seen beech, I've seen oak, I've seen some other interesting hardwoods, but there's something special about that particular part of New Jersey. Anyway, so this is the first mushroom of 7 that I have. And I don't think I've seen a species before anywhere. This is my certainly first time. It looks like some kind of a Leucoagaricus. That was my impression. It's clearly a lepiatoid mushroom because the gills are free, and it just has the overall gestalt of the species. Yeah, showing the mushrooms, from Yahoo is not a great idea. I mean, ideally, you would download them and then see them better because the resolution is not very good. Anyway, this type of
I've done that, and for whatever reason, these image files are not opening properly on my computer because I pre-downloaded all of them. And they have, I guess that's a little better. But then they go out.
Maybe.
Then they go.
I know, maybe they're all the same. Yeah, so this type is very flocose, and I don't see really a ring. And if there was a ring, maybe it was fragile, and you just left with this, these flocose, woolly decorations on the stem. These are very fragile mushrooms. You can see the margin is also appendiculate with the partial veil fragments, and the gills are free. They're clearly free. Especially seen in the specimen on the right. The left isn't, good enough too. But yeah, Leucoagaricus, whatever. There are probably species that I should know about. I think there's one called Cystipes or something like that, something along those lines. But I'm not sure if that's what it is. Anyway, I see this collection. The colors are pretty much accurate. It's sort of, brown. And now the second mushroom. Yeah, I mean this is the last photo of the first mushroom.
Yeah, and they look they look pretty big, right? They're hardy.
Yeah, they're medium size. I think they were maybe 3 inches tall at the most, maybe 3.5. Not quite reaching.
I looked at it before, and I was like, oh, yeah, Leucoagaricus makes a lot of sense there, right? They're big though. It's cool.
Hello.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah. I was running behind schedule here. I think these might be Lepiota clipiolarum. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, but it's a very diffused, species concept for that. Everything
that
we call clipiolara turned out to be something else by DNA. I mean, we dealt with these things in NJMA with sequencing.
What did it turn out to be?
Unknown species. I think we even went to Elsvillinga for these things, and she said, well,
it's a group.
It's in that group, but it's not Clipiolara.
Oh, okay. Well, I would think it's something maybe that has been gone by that name. So, and Cepestipes is that's Leucocoprinus.
I think it was Leucoagaricus.
Cepestipes is Leucocoprinus, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And those are small and white. Yeah, leucoagaricus sort of makes sense for this, but I have a hard time distinguishing between leucoagaricus and some of these smaller lepiotas. I think the shaggy stalk is what's making me think lepiota.
Yeah, Dave, I probably misspoke. I should have said leucocaprinus because I looked this up before, and it was sort of, the mushrooms, they were not, they were similar looking to something like leucocaprinus burmbaui. I just misspoke. So leucocaprinus probably with the correct genus for these things, not leucoagaricus. Again, just
Maybe
too many leucas. Both have free gills, so it's a lepiatoid mushroom.
Yeah,
So
and they all have dextrinite spores. I find all of these to be kind of perplexing, really.
Yeah, well,
but at this time of the year, I have found what I used to call lepiota, clipiolara, or clipiolaris, whatever it is, on my property. I haven't seen it in a few years, but it looked kind of like this. What I used to call that. I think it was actually Elsa who gave me that ID. Actually, though, the Quipiolara thing might have been a little bit more ornamented than this on the cap. Leucoagaricus generally have a better defined ring. The partial veil is a little bit more persistent.
Yeah, like leucoagaricus, leucothites. That's the one that looks like an amanita, but it's not.
Yeah, rubrotinctus too has a fairly persistent ring from the partial veil.
Right, but it's a small
species. Lepiota, actually. I would bet $5 these are a lepiota.
This where we are on the second mushroom. These are not the same.
These. Oh, I'm sorry. These look like lepiota.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you like that leucoagaricus, leucocaprinus, lepiota discussion, let's look at this one.
Okay. Yeah, so this is clearly a different species because I've seen quite a few of these in the woods, and even when they were small, they were already yellow. The camera, I think, distorted the color, so not yellow, but kind of yellowish brown. So I think the camera made them slightly more brown than they are, and I think these are different. And what happened to these when I brought them home, their gills also were staining brownish, whereas that other first mushroom. The gills remain white even when they dried, I think. So whatever this thing is, it was very abundant in Smithville, and like I said, it looks like a different species from the first one. The gills are free.
Yeah, that's what I was zooming in. A little extreme on the zoom in, but
yeah, all of these lepioid things have free gills.
And same deal.
Lepiotoid things. I'm not sure of the adjective. Anyway.
Yeah. You get that Foucault's material, whether it's the ring zone from the ring or it's just a decoration as seen previously in the first species, just thoroughly covered with this woolly Foucault's felty material.
That's what makes me think lepiota for these. And the other ones as well, because they also have the Flocos material on the stipe and not a real well-defined ring. Some lepiotas have, like Lepiota cristata will usually have a better defined ring, so that would kind of eliminate that name from this discussion.
These seem bigger. Were these pretty substantial?
These were more robust looking, and they were not necessarily taller, but the caps were wider. That's a 4-inch plate, I think, or maybe it's a 6-inch. Okay, so this one is an amanita, section amanita, and that's as much as I could tell about this mushroom. It has a very bulbous base, but there's no color to it. And I just didn't see it. And there's also no partial veil. Either it fell off or there was just none to begin with. And
I'm guessing it fell off. I've had things that look like this sequenced, and they came back as crenulata.
This is not crenulata. this is definitely not crenulata. There's no way this can be crenulata on the account of the universal veil and the shape of the bulb, and there's no felted material that's champagne colored. This is clearly one of these species that's closer to SP Indiana 5034 or Velatipes and the ilk. It could be, not section Pantherina, but Gemate, I should say, but it's clearly not Amanita crenulata.
Well, that's what I thought, Igor, when I had things like this submitted to NAMP and Fundus, and they matched on GenBank with crenulata sequences.
We collected a boatload of crenulata at this foray, and I didn't take picture because it's just the gestalt for the crenulata is pretty much well established. But that one was clearly champagne colored vulva, and if you're not speaking, please mute yourselves. It's just a lot of feedback here, and yeah, these were yellow. They were not brown. Crenulata has a more brown cap, tan, brownish cap, not yellow like this. So I'm pretty sure this is not crenulata. And this thing was also very large.
That's the classic description, but I'm telling you, I had several things that I submitted, and mostly they were from the summer, not from the fall. They were from warmer weather. They were taller than crenulata, slimmer than crenulata, more yellow than crenulata. The deposit on the cap was patchy and not those little like crusty champagne colored deposits, and there was no champagne powder on the bulb. I mean, I was surprised also. I'll send you some links later to show you what I'm talking about.
I mean, I've seen your mushrooms, Dave, and I don't have an explanation for this, but clearly this is not crenulata. I mean, like I said, we found like 15 crenulatas in there, and we're all the same. They had a clear gestalt of crenulata. This mushroom is a pantherinoid or a gematoid taxon with a yellow cap and a white vulva that doesn't have any deposits anywhere else. Okay, I'm ready to move on to the next mushroom because
actually, just one more comment, Igor. I have also submitted other amanitas that look like this one that did not match with crenulata sequences on GenBank. So it's very
like
mysterious.
Like the Zanili vulva, for instance, which is Colombian.
One of the ones I'm thinking of. Yep,
but we either have it here or that's a North American species that descended with the oaks down to across the Mesoamerica into South America, northern South America. Okay. No, that's not the one. Okay, so this is we got basically 3 collections of this mushroom, and the 2 fruit bodies on the left and the right. I mean, the 2 fruit bodies on the extremes of this group, the left and right, are mine, and also the one which is in the middle is mine. So those were 2 separate collections, and then the 2 other fruit bodies, the big one and the small one, were also separate collections. But clearly, this is the same taxon, and we'll see why. It's a lexinum in a broad sense because Michael Kuo just collapsed everything into lexinum just because he felt that his statistical package was confident enough to brand everything lexinum that fell into that particular group with high confidence. But in a broad sense, it's lexinum. In a less broad sense, this is a lexinellum, or what we call the lexinellum, because that genus is polyphyletic. And the type species for lexinellum is the European Crossipodium, I think. And nobody knows what Crossipodium is because there's no type sequence. So we have a name, we have a type species, but we don't know how to ID things in that genus or what that genus represents in the phylogenetic tree. So the pores are yellow, pale yellow when young, and then they sort of become more grayish-brown. And the scabers, you can see, they are arranged in these lines. They accentuate like these shallow ridges. you can see that it almost gives this like a streaky appearance. They're kind of lined up in lines, longitudinal streaking kind of thing. Very small scabers. Very corrugated cap. If you move on to the next photos, yep, that's hallmark of the quote-unquote Lexinellum. The caps were exactly of this color, sort of yellowish brown, maybe more brown than yellow. And when eventually I came home and I processed these things, no, that's not it. I think there was another series of pictures that I included with that collection. Can you scroll more toward the end? Or maybe you did not download them, all of them. Let me see if I have this in my email. It's possible I did not attach all the photos. No, I did attach all of them. You should have them. Yeah, okay. So when you cut the mushroom, you can immediately see that the flesh is whitish, except on the top of the cap where it's clearly yellow. So when I cut it, I could immediately see the flesh in the cap was dingy yellow, and the flesh type was whitish. And eventually, this whitish type became gray. The staining was blackish or dark gray, as you can see here. And the color intensified in a few minutes, and it didn't change for almost half an hour. So the only species I can think of is Lexinum luteum, but that one is smaller and has a more yellow cap than these. But the staining is essentially the same on the flesh. It's blackish. Very interesting species. I don't think I've seen it before. Oak associate probably. I didn't see any birch. I saw oak and other hardwoods, beech maybe, but not necessarily birch. Yeah, I think I sent you 3 pictures of staining immediately upon cutting, 2 minutes later, and then 15 minutes later. Okay, so this mushroom also stumped me. I don't know how to call it. It's probably something in the Clitocyboid group. They were growing in clusters. And first I thought I was looking at something like, what is it? I always forget in these, the genus of that thing.
Lyophilum?
No, I mean, eventually I thought these were Lyophilum, but my original impression just by looking at the caps, it was, what's that mushroom that starts with a C that smells like bread?
Clytopilus?
Clytopilus, yes. I thought these were Clytopilus from the top, but I flipped them over, and the gill attachment and the color of the gills did not really agree with Clytopilus. So I thought it was some kind of Lyophilum because they were growing in clusters. And these had an odor, sort of maybe somewhat pleasant, but they began to smell more spermatic, I should say, and very odoriferous. So don't know what these are. Save them. Going to get them sequenced.
Did you get a spore collar from them?
No,
I think they might be Lepistus subconnexa.
This is what I.
Cladocybe subconnexa, Lepistus subconnexa.
We collected something. We collected something in these woods 2 years ago that was resembled these, except they were much larger and more slender, and they had a very pleasant, sweet odor, unlike these things. And when I sequenced them, they were in that subconnexa group. So those I'm confident about. And of course, I remember them, but these guys were more squat, but much smaller and not so pleasant smelling. But who knows? Like I said, I saved these and I'm going to get them sequenced.
How do you get mushrooms sequenced, Igor?
It's a long story. You basically submit it to somebody who can amplify the DNA of choice, the gene or the locus you're looking at, and then submit it to one of the sequencing companies. That was the old-fashioned way. And I think now you basically can submit it to Steve Russell, either for free or for a small price. And he's going to do it for you. Because he's equipped with a new technology called nanopore sequencing, which is high throughput. So it makes sense to run a lot of collections at the same time, as opposed to do like individual sequencing, like 1 mushroom or 3 mushrooms or 10 mushrooms. You go into a 96 well plate and you get 96 sequences or something like that, or maybe even more. Anyway, so I first came across this mushroom 2 years ago, our first year in Smithville, and stupidly I omitted to save it because it just disappeared during the cleanup. I forgot about it. And I made an observation of that on MO, and you can refer to it from 2021, I think. So these were small, 2 separate collections, and it looks like something in the Stirps muscaria, but it's not Amanita muscaria or Chrysoblema. It looks a little bit like Amanita persicina or persicina, if that spelling is more correct. But again, these were just small, and when you flip them over, their gills are just way too wide and they stain yellow. So I think this is a species that Rattaus calls Amanita austrowelsii. And the nicer looking mushroom was collected by a Chinese lady. I forget her name. I think Kui Shi, if I pronounce it correctly. This fruit body was another collection of what I believe is the same thing. It's very small, but it was collected by somebody else. So I have 3 mushrooms that are probably the same species. These 2 I'm pretty sure about. The smallest one, possibly, but not confident because it's so young. Very nice little mushroom. Not a huge species, I think. These are on the smaller side for sure. So austrowelsii, I think, is the name. Okay, so this was number 6, and we're on to number 7. The last one.
That one, it does remind me a little of Wellsii, but it's not Wellsii. So that your proposal makes sense to me.
Yeah, we don't get Wellsii here. I think it's more of a austrowelsii means southern Wellsii, which is a fitting name because it has a more southern distribution. I think going all the way down into southeastern USA, places like Georgia and the like. Okay. Yeah, this last mushroom is a very beautiful species of Lexinum section scabra. I did not collect any of these. There are 2 major collections here. If you go to the first photo, yeah, the 3 mushrooms on the left were together, collected by an unknown person, and the one on the right, which I merged with this collection, is a separate collection of the same species ostensibly. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. And I saved them separately. Dark brown gray caps with very dark, almost black scabers that form a pseudo-reticulate pattern. The scabers themselves are very small, but you can clearly see they look almost reticulated. And I've never seen such an ornamentation in Lexinum before, unless I was looking at something like Lexinum albellum. But again, these are like almost completely solid black on the bottom. Now, the second photo shows the same quartet of species, except that I added another species, which actually is something else. That fellow on the right with a dog-legged stipe is not the same taxon as these 4. So This is probably something maybe like Lexinum albellum, except that it doesn't look like albellum at all. But albellum is a very variable species, and occasionally it has fruit bodies that have dark caps and dark stipes as well. So this is just another view of the same collection, except that fruit body on the left is that funky albellum-like entity that is not the same species as these four that you see. Yep, gray-brown caps, kind of on the darker side with these darkish fibrils. And they look a little bit like snellii, except that I don't think we have snellii here in South Jersey.
Are these the same ones that were staining like snellii that you showed a little while ago?
Well, that's the same mushroom I'm talking about. They were just the photographs were in disarray, and they were shown out.
Are these the ones that were staining like red at the upper stipe and blue below? Yeah, those. It just flashed past. Are they the same ones?
Oh, all right. So yeah, not so fast, Brandon. So I just cut one collection that was the third mushroom. So the fourth mushroom, right? So a separate collection. So it looked like this immediately after cutting. Note that the flesh on the bottom of the stipe is already kind of yellow. And in my experience, when you get that kind of a hue, that area stains blue. And these certainly stayed blue, but not much. But they were prominently staining red very quickly, within a few minutes. And when I cut the other three mushrooms that came as a single collection, they exhibited the same kind of staining. A mixture of red and blue, but not really much blue at all. So I'm quite sure that these four mushrooms are the same.
Igor, what's that species that looks like snellii, but the cap is different? Varia something? Variceps or something? Or you know what I'm talking
no,
about?
it's varicolor, but I don't think this is varicolor. Varicolor looks like snellii. It has a patchy cap, sort of brown with very light areas, kind of creamy or whitish. But again, when you cut these, they have almost the same kind of staining, except that you get more red. But I don't think you can really trust the colors in terms of like the their intensity or the distribution or how much of each color you get. Very attractive species. I think it's not something I've seen before. That's my gut feel, but I could be wrong, because after all, Lexinum is very difficult. I was really impressed by the stipes. That's the coolest ornamentation I've seen in Lexinum in a long time.
Igor, I found some well, I didn't find them. Somebody found them on a club foray here. Lexinum holopus that had reticulation on the stipe also. I'm gonna email it in. And I'll see if there's one or two others I can add to the email. But anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, the holopus that I collected in the Pine Barrens, because I only find it in the Pine Barrens, is much lighter in color, and I've have 2 or 3 collections from different spots, and I had them all sequenced, I think, at least 2 of them, and they are much lighter, and they certainly do not form this blackish reticulation. Once again, the fifth mushroom on the extreme right with the bent stipe did not stain red and blue. It just stayed the same color when cut, and half an hour later, sort of whitish, no staining at all.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to imply it that I thought these were holopus. They're definitely not holopus. Holopus is very pale.
Yeah, holopus is very pale. It's very blonde. I think I have a good concept of holopus, and holopus, even if it stains red, it's not as intense as this. And that's what happens to that fourth mushroom, a separate collection, which I cut first. It basically turned this kind of a grayish, violaceous color, maybe more gray than violaceous. Maybe the camera distorted the color. So that red went away and was replaced by this dingy gray-brown color. Very cool. So sorry for a long-winded discussion, but I had a lot of mushrooms to go through, and Again, only one species I can maybe put a name on, Australwellsii. The other ones are more of a mystery.
Nice, Igor.
Thank you for your attention.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about that last Lixinum? So the blue-red staining, I've only seen that in something you ID for me, Porphyrelis or Datus.
Sordidus or Sorditus, yes.
Are there other Lixinums that go red, blue, varying?
Well, yeah, Snellii and varicolor. And varicolor is a European species, where Snellii is North American. There's also another species that is in the Snellii group by DNA, by ITS2 at least, it is, that doesn't usually stain red. Typically just stains blue on the bottom of the stipe, but if the collections are fresh, they will stain red as well. And those have much lighter caps with dark fibrils, different shade of brown and not as deep. So those are species in the Snellii group, as I said. Varicolor is not in the Snellii group, at least not genetically. That thing is a total outlier by ITS at least. And we only found it, I think, in Connecticut at Comophorae. Somebody brought it in, and I got it sequenced.
I think I find variocolor in Vermont because I found a thing up in Vermont that stains like Snellii, but the cap color is more blotched, blotchy, like you said.
Yeah, just like in Snellii, it's more blotchy. So varicolor and Snellii look the same, but their genetics points out to the fact that they are not related at all.
Interesting.
And Noderlos and Dan Backer also say in their papers that you can distinguish between those two species, varicolor and Snellii, based on the habitat. One grows in drier, acidic soils, and the other one in the more wet and basic, or something. Maybe I confused the combination, but the wetness is associated with one species and the dryness of the habitat in the other. That's what they said. I guess they sequenced lots of collections to make that conclusion. And again, those papers were written back in 2005 and 6, so they're already almost 20 years old, and we don't have any more information, after those 15, 20 years on that genus in Europe. Go ahead, Dave. You wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, the thing that I found in Vermont that I thought might be varicolor. If I remember correctly, it was growing in well-drained upland sort of habitat, like the top of a hill, sort of. So it would be dry, acidic kind of soil.
That probably would be Snellii, I think, if I'm correct.
That correlates with Snellii. Oh,
I think so. Yeah, I have to check again, but Northern Voice clearly made a distinction. They do say that they look the same, and the only way to distinguish between the two, other than maybe doing some microscopy, which may not be reliable, is the habitat separation. That was their claim. So whether it's true or not, I don't know. But apparently, it just passed through the peer review process, and nobody had a question about that. So they must be right. Of all the Lexinum I've sequenced here, I came across some very interesting species that didn't have any sequences in GenBank. In section Scabra, they were not matching anything from Europe or the USA, in my experience. So I don't know if they have names. They might, but it's going to take holotype sequencing from Michigan to get the answer. And you look at these species and, brown capped section Scabra, they kind of all look the same to you for the most part.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Igor, appreciate you sharing. Cool stuff.
Yep.
Lauren,
Thanks again.
you want to go next?
Sure.
All right.
All right. Dave, I'm glad you're here because I found a cool mushroom. I don't know if it's a Pluteus, but I've never seen it before, and I'm kind of curious what you think. not that. I also found 100 million porcinis. If anybody needs any, let me know. Let's see.
Yeah, I brought home a lot of those today again. I'm up to about 14 pounds, I guess, the last 12 days.
Oh,
I
are
mean,
you
they are
you're finding them
exploding.
you're finding them, where are you finding those, Laura?
I have found most of them in Morris County, some in Hunterdon County, but I drive down the street, and if I see a Norway spruce, I slow down, and I am not kidding you. I cannot pass a Norway spruce without finding porcinis under every single one, to the point where it's getting tiring and boring.
Well, I'm jealous. Everywhere that I've gone, we don't have Norway spruce in the places that I go. So I haven't seen any. So Norway spruce is what yeah.
If you drive up here, you just literally just pick any random street and they are just everywhere. It's insane. I probably found like 10 spots yesterday, brand new spots, just driving. Huh?
I said, geez, that's
crazy.
You're bragging at this point.
Yeah, it's a full.
I'm definitely bragging, but it's also a little
brag.
weird. It's just also very strange.
That's
yeah,
awesome,
so it's like part brag, part weird.
Yeah.
It's
humble brag. It's a humble brag. Actual.
Just run the dehydrator real hard.
So I actually had to go borrow somebody else's dehydrator to have 2 dehydrators running because we have so many.
An old,
that's no longer. That's no
an
longer
old blow dryer and a cardboard box works too.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Do you have an attic window that faces south?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. I don't know.
If you do, you can slice them, and especially the stalks. You can take like monofilament fishing line or something like that, string it across a south-facing window. Attic is best. It gets warm in attics, and hang them on the line. They won't dry completely, but while some are drying in a dehydrator, those are like pre-drying, and then you can.
Oh, that's interesting.
Move them into the dehydrator when the other one's dry. Because I just did this last week. I have like 10 pounds in one day.
That's awesome.
Both my dehydrators were filled, and I had a window with, I think 6 strands of monofilament strung in the window, and they were all filled up also.
Wow.
My heart just goes out to 2 of you in sympathy.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. If anyone wants to lend us a 3rd dehydrator, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, we need a couple more dehydrators. By the way, I should also mention that on my way to work today, I also found a couple of spots, and I was like, that's it. I can't stop anymore. This is getting ridiculous.
Oh, it's an accident.
Anyway, yeah, it's amazing I haven't gotten into an accident yet.
But you have to get them while you can, because the next 3 years you might not see any.
Yeah.
They come out some years and some years they don't, and the conditions are perfect, I guess, this year.
Crazy good photo there. It's fun.
Yeah, this is Morris County. It's funny. I shouldn't give away this hint, but there's a sign on this property that says something about pines, but they're like mostly Norway spruce on this property. Anyway, okay, so enough with the porcinis. These are all different spots. This was all yesterday. These
I have a question. I have a question. The porcini, is it a European species? Because the Norway spruce is a European species.
These are all edgeless. There's no question about it. Dentinger already established that. It's a very variable species, but the DNA, the genome say it's the same thing. So it's just whole Arctic. It just has a distribution across the entire northern hemisphere up to a certain latitude. And you just have different populations of this thing with variable gene flow. And that's how you wind up with all these very distinct looking things. But it's a single species. Boletus edulis.
Okay. These were actually
So-
on my way home tonight. But let me get to the other non-porcinis if I could find them.
So it's
Oh, okay.
interesting to me, there are a bunch of Norway spruces in my neighborhood, but not a single Boletus edulis.
I've seen this before too. Not all of these were inoculated with edulis, so they must have come from different nurseries. And you will be, not finding them under certain, plantations, and others will be fruiting for some reason. So, yeah, but they also grow under white pine. And I guess the hemlock-associated edulis is just a sort of diversification in the mycorrhizal association front, but I think they're all the same.
That's what Dettinger said.
That's right.
I sent Dettinger hemlock associating edulis, and it didn't. It did not generate any sort of different identification. He said they're all edulis. And one note about this not being under some trees. Some spots where I get edulis under Norway spruce have not produced a single one this year. So maybe it's going to take one more shower. I don't know, but and some areas, some spots where I get edulis, I've been basically getting them in two spots the last week and a half. But some of the Norway spruce trees in these spots where I have never found them before, I've been finding them. And on the other hand, some spots with Norway spruce, one spot in particular, a lawn that I drive by often because it's not far from my house, one year had probably 10 pounds of edulis on it. And a few other years there was a good number of edulis on it. There's been none there this year. I haven't seen a single one. So some trees are in the mood to produce and some aren't. Some mycelium are, some aren't. It's pretty mysterious, really, how this works.
I found these russellas the other day, and I know russellas aren't easy, but they're such a distinctive orange color. I was curious if anybody would possibly know what these may be.
Did you scratch the gills? Did you drag a
No,
knife across the gills? Did you smell
no.
them?
Oh God,
They
I've
look
smelled
maybe
so
like
many
Russula.
mushrooms in the last week.
Were these under conifers?
Yeah.
I find something that looks like this. I call it Russula barley.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Barley?
Yeah, and they're good edible.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, not just not just because they're like one of the better russulas. They're actually really good. If it is what I think it is. So two things you can check to see if it's Russula barley. Rub the stalk and also drag a knife across the gills and see if it stains light brown. Like it might take a minute or two. Also smell them. They smell like crab or shrimp. They smell like shellfish, basically.
Oh, how do you spell barley?
Yeah, Barlae, I think.
Oh, that's interesting. It comes up with North American shrimp russellas on Mushroom Expert. That's interesting.
They smell like shrimp or crab. They're good.
Oh, that's
Now,
so neat.
some of the sources that I've consulted say they're an oak associate, but I've never seen them under oak. I find them under pines and spruce.
Yeah, I think this was under a pine. That's really neat.
Present.
Okay. What?
Looks like oak leaves are present, so.
Yeah, but they were definitely directly underneath a conifer for sure. But yeah, I do see those leaves, but okay. All right, so that's that. All right, so this one is fascinating, and Inat told me that this might be a Pluteus, and I'm curious what you think. Pluteus aurantioorugosus? Is that possible? The only thing is though, I just checked the spore print and it was kind of orangey brown. Like a clay orange color.
That's not inconsistent with Pluteus. Pluteus prints are reported as being pink, but some people perceive them as light brown, or maybe even a little darker than light brown. What you want to look for here is see if the gills are free. See if the gills are definitely come up short of the stipe, and not just broken away from the stipe, but definitely like are rounded and point, rounded and oriented away from the stipe before touching it. Is this them? Those look like Pluteus gills. Okay, so there is this Arantio something or other Pluteus species.
Rugosus. Isn't it Arantio rugosus?
That might be it. Yeah, that's probably it if you're looking at something there, because I forget. I was just going to try to look at
Is that the spores at the bottom of that one stipe?
Could be.
Yeah, right here. I'm not sure. Yeah, because if you can go back to the cap, it looked like it might have been a little wrinkled.
Wait, actually, hold on. Let me see. Where did that go? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On the right of the center one. Yeah, and on the upper of the right one.
That's a feature that they're kind of wrinkled?
I think so, and I've never found that species, so I've never delved into
I've
it.
never seen this before.
It's been a long time since I found this orange cap Pluteus that I think that you named, or that Brandon named. This looks a little bit more vividly orange, I think. Let me look. You know what? Let me look on Michael Quebec. I'll be back. Maybe I'll get a link.
It's on Mushroom Expert, and
okay.
Just I know this name as rugosus, orange rugosus, although they spell it Aura or Arantio rugosus. But rugosus leads me to believe wrinkled cap, and it looks like that's what's described here. Orange wrinkled cap. Yeah.
All right.
If that's what you found, it's a infrequently encountered mushroom.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and just totally stunning.
I just looked on Mushroom Observer. I'm sorry, Mushroom Expert. Yeah, and it looks just like this. Really, it's been a long time since I've seen this species. At least what I did as this species. It's been over 10 years, so I needed a review.
Oh wow!
But it looks like it's a Pluteus for sure. Those gills really look like Pluteus, and it looks like it's growing on wood. These are on wood.
Yeah, they were
standing wood. It looked like.
Yeah, they were. I'll show you the picture. There it is. Yeah, inside of a tree, standing tree.
That's Lauren, really cool. If you can grab these, can you save them, please?
I have them. I got them days ago. I don't know. I mean, I just kind of looked at them. I still have them, but they've been decomposing for a few days. I have the spores.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to save a fresh collection if possible. By now, they would be probably useless for sequencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I only knew that name because I found Pluteus chrysophlebia this past week. So I was looking at these brightly colored Pluteus, the orange and yellow Pluteus, and I had never seen this thing before, and I was fascinated by it, and it looks exactly like the pictures on Mushroom Expert.
Well, I think we have a good idea here. So, Lauren, if you know the spot where you found them, if you see them again, please save a few. All right.
I have a question.
Are they likely to grow back, do you think, in that spot?
Oh, they will regrow back for sure.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Well,
could you do a sequencing from a spore print? Is there enough?
No.
Is there enough material to make
probably enough if you can scoop enough, just a little pinch of spores and deposit them into a PCR size tube. Yeah, it can be sequenced, I think.
Huh. Cool.
So.
All right. Well, these were actually at the bottom of Teetertown Preserve, and Mike and I go there all the time. So I will keep checking to see if there are fresh ones.
Well, if you have a sport print and it's thick enough, you can basically save the glass slide and just scoop them up and put them in some small container.
And if it's
okay, I'll see what I can do.
We have a picture and we have some presumably, spores are still supposed to be good because there's a lot of DNA in there, obviously, naturally. So yeah, that would be a good solution maybe to the problem, if in case these don't come up again for another 20 years.
Okay.
I wouldn't scoop them. I would just keep the whole. I would keep just a piece of paper with the spores.
All right, I'll do it. All right, we're on to these ones now. These had a lot of mycelium growing at the bottom. And I just checked these spore prints too, and it was weird. I took multiple mushrooms that were totally different, and they all have like similar, like orangey spore prints. I think this was one of them. Any ideas?
Orangey spore prints.
Yeah,
maybe they're entelomas.
Yeah, with those notched gills, that's what I was just thinking.
I'm just going back into my kitchen right now to see.
Lots of short gills.
Yeah, they're like and it's funny because it's very similar color to the Pluteus spore print. It's a little darker though. Yeah, I guess it's like a medium brown.
Yep. Pluteus and entoloma spore prints are very similar. If you have spores and you can scope them, you can find out if it's entoloma, if not, it's entoloma. It's pretty easy to tell with a microscope.
All right. So you think
and then if you find out that it's an entoloma, then that's where the fun really starts because there's going to be a lot of possibilities for the species and it's going to be really hard to pin down.
All right.
If you have spores for these, if you can send the spores to me, I'll look at them under a scope. It only take 5 minutes really, because entoloma spores are very easy to. It's very easy to tell yes or no entoloma. I'll put my email address in the chat.
I have it actually.
You have it? Okay, yeah. Send me an email and I'll give you my address. You can send me the spores and I'll look at them. It's only going to take 5 minutes. Entoloma spores. I think it's an entoloma, and I think that's what we're going to find out.
Okay.
It won't. Now, once we know it's an entoloma, if we know it's an entoloma, though, it's pretty much. Then, like I said, then good luck after that.
Are there even any white Pluteus that would grow like that, though?
Well, those had attached gills, though.
Yeah.
Those things that Lauren just showed had notched attached gills, so they can't be Pluteus.
Right. So doesn't that mean it's likely an entoloma?
It's probably entoloma. The only other thing I was thinking was maybe hebeloma, but hebeloma have light brown spore prints. I don't think you would really. I don't think anybody is going to perceive a hebeloma spore print as orangey, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or even I don't think they're any kind of foliota though.
What do you got here, Lauren? Is that blue? Is that blue? Kinda?
Yeah. And it was growing from a twig.
Did you smell it?
So I probably did, but I have been smelling so many mushrooms, and I have a bad habit of smelling things and then not taking note of what I smell. So I probably did, but this was like last week sometime.
Looks like Cladosabi odora, which usually smells like anise.
Okay. Oh my God.
Odora, Tricholoma odorum. There's a difference.
Oh,
They grow from
odora. When I
twigs?
say odorum, it's odora, right? Yeah.
Odora.
Yeah. Okay.
Do they grow from twigs? Because I don't remember. It's been a while since I found them.
They grow from forest litter.
Okay.
That a lot of times they're on the ground, but they're saprobes, so they're going to be getting nutrients from forest litter type stuff.
Okay.
We saw a lot of odora in Smithville.
Do they look like this?
Yeah,
What's
they
that?
had that pale aquamarine color on the cap, and the gills look like Cladosabi odora also.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me look on Mushroom X-Ray probably has them. Let me check up, see if I can get a link.
Well, let's cycle through.
I put it in the chat, Dave.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see. Then this thing, what the heck?
Whoa.
What the hell is this? I mean, it looks like it's some kind of Craterellus, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
But what?
Craterellus foetidus, I think maybe. Check that one. Craterellus foetidus. I think it's foetidus.
Is that the one that has like netted, like looks like reticulation as the that false hymeneum type deal?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, and it looks like this one might be kind of like that. That's why I'm guessing that.
Yeah,
I think
Lauren,
that's the
if
name.
you could zoom in a little bit on those false gills.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. What happened? Where did that go? Are you seeing? Oh, wait, do I have both screens open? What the hell's going on here? Oh, sorry about that. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
And I'm sorry, can somebody spell that for me? Craterellus. I know how to spell Craterellus, but the species.
I put it in the chat for you, Lauren.
Oh, you beat
Okay,
me
thanks,
today, Mike. I think that's what this is.
I
really
so
think
too.
that's what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, look at how, like, you know, a lot of these chanterelles have cross veining, right? But these almost look like you would see at the apex of a bolete, right? Like reticulated, like pores, really.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was a neat little thing.
Yeah, that's a nice find. I've been a long time since I found this one. Once again, probably 10 years or more. Interesting.
You know, we had a foray at Teetertown a while ago, and I was thinking, gosh, it was too bad that it wasn't last week when Mike and I were there, because we just walked on the trail or the road that's right underneath the park, and we just were finding so much interesting stuff. Just one thing after another. Like this was another thing at the bottom of Teetertown that I thought was interesting. I found just this one. I think INAT also was suggesting this might be a Pluteus.
Well, let's see the gills. We can tell from the gills.
That's an
So I have
Antoloma.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah,
I
I
have a
think I'm going to agree
pictures.
with Brandon on this. The gills look like they're attached and they're pink.
Let's
Well,
see.
I could tell from the texturing on the tap surface.
It was interesting too because wait, let me see if I could find it. On this one, you can see where the stipe broke. There's like pink inside the stipe too.
Yeah, and that stipe was it blue to the eye, bluish?
I don't remember it being bluish. Let me see if I could get another picture of it. Not really. You can see it there. I don't see any blue.
Gills don't look like Pluteus gills, really. They look a little bit ragged. Yeah, I was gonna when I first saw this, I was gonna suggest something from the Anasabaceae, but it's not. You know, but Brandon's right. It's a Antoloma.
Okay. All right.
Look
Thank
also,
you.
look also, you can see the sinuate attachment of the gills. See where there's just like a real thin recessed attachment of the gill to the stipe? Do you see there's you
Yeah.
can see like 3 or 4 of them on the upper left there? Yeah, that's an Antoloma trait. Well, not all Antolomas, but a fair number of Antolomas have sinuate gill attachment.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that looks pretty wet. Like the cap looks like maybe you found it in dry or really wet conditions. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it probably had just rained a ton. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the ones that has the blue stipe, but not the black amarginate gills. What is that? It starts with an S.
But did you see blue? Because I didn't
That's
see blue.
Cerulatum. Cerulatum has, I think Cerulatum has gills that come down the stalk. Not sure. I'd have to check that.
Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, go ahead and move on. I'm gonna look for this name.
That might be it. Let me see. Nope, just more Puccinis. All right, I think I'm done. All right. Thank you guys. How do I get out of that stupid thing? Okay.
Nice, thanks, Lauren. Good shares. Mike, do you want to go next?
Thank you, Brendan. This is from a couple weeks ago in West Virginia. On the ground in leaf litter. And I keyed it out to Tremolodendropsis semivestita. I'll put that in the chat. Just a minute here. Where am I?
So a longer, thinner version and a shorter, stockier version.
Say that again.
Looks like two pretty different specimens.
They were growing right next to each other. And when I look at images of this, it's typical that it appears in these forms.
Okay.
So I'll go into the next one. This is growing on a cut log.
Mm.
From the top, close up of the spines. You can see the branches are flattened. Here's an even closer shot of the spine. So I ID'd it as Hericium coralloides.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mike. That's what that looks like.
Yeah.
I found that in 2 different places, widely separated in this park. It's the second largest park in West Virginia, so it's fairly widespread there. Tiny little caps. You can see they've got a very small centrally attached stipe. Younger ones are lighter. So I ID'd that as Bisporella citrina.
Yeah, there's a new genus for that one.
Calycina.
It starts with CA.
Calycina.
Calycina. Okay. All right.
Calycina. Okay.
Was this on a piece of wood that maybe would have always been very wet and then dried? Like maybe this was in water and then exposed?
It's quite possible. So if you look at the moss here, this is a really wet area.
Yeah, because that, in my observations of Calycina citrina, like I found them in a swamp recently that before we got all this rain would have been, held water. And then I went there in a really dry spell and it was everywhere, just on wood, on leaves and little sticks, and seemed to be growing right out of the ground. So I think that might be a trait for this thing.
So this was there are places in these woods where there are moss covered gullies that are channels for runoff, and this was on the trail near where one of those crosses. So that's quite possible.
And I think you would need to do a little micro on it because
to confirm it.
But yeah, that's a totally plausible idea. And I'll put
I end up examining spores for a lot of these small yellow cups, and they always turn out to be citrinum. The spores are kind of elongated, elliptic, with 2 gutules, 2 oil drops at each end. You can usually see at 400 times. You can see enough detail.
Okay. And this is the base of an oak tree. Under the ferns, you can see little tiny coral fungi growing from the leaf litter. This is oak, birch. I forget. There may be ash in there too. Here's a close-up of one of them. Very small, but pretty tough. And commonly branching, I forget what you call it, where it always branches out in 2s. Oops, sorry. I have no idea how to.
So you said that these were like kind of resilient, kind of tough, or
yeah.
But
so they were not gelatinous at all.
I wonder if they might be xylarium.
Huh? Really?
That's definitely possible.
Yeah, what's that moose antlers thing? Xylaria. They're very white though, but Xylaria, starts out white when it has conidia all over it. Conidia fall off, and then it's dark, and then these
were sort of translucently white.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. Like, it's entirely possible because they're white that they could be
See,
Conidia spores.
There's no hint of darkness here, and you can see the light sort of is shining through the antlers here. Almost as if they're translucent.
Xylaria, I think.
Yeah?
Xylaria, I don't think light's going to go through Xylaria.
No.
Yeah.
Mike, did you try to because when those Xylaria are in their asexual stage and they have this white layer on them, you can kind of wipe it away.
Yeah, there was no white layer to wipe away.
Yeah, and probably not then.
Okay, that rules out Xylaria. Yeah, it's not Xylaria. Okay, so there's this thing. What is it? Clavulina rugosa. Let me. I think that's the name of it. Let me look.
Yeah. Doesn't that thing have like a little foot on it, like a clearly defined? I don't even know how to describe it. They describe it. The translation on Myco Quebec is foot peed. And it's a little kind of wrinkled. It has more of a.
These were sort of bulbous at the base. This is the best photo I have here.
And Mike, it looks like it's coming right up off that leaf, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I think that kind of rules out whatever that Clavaria rugosa or.
I think so also, because that should be like coming out of the ground, I think.
No, these were definitely coming from the leaf litter, because this is an oak leaf, piece of an oak leaf here, and that's a single layer that it's growing out of. And you can see the mycelial fibers reach through the leaf structure here.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I have no idea about this, really. Tossed around a few ideas and they're pretty much all wrong.
Definitely looks, Clavaria or Clavaria, all those offshoots of Clavaria seems like a great place to start, but I don't know. It's neat.
So where would you go for resources to key out a Clavaria?
A few species.
Unless someone in person describes one of these type things to me, or I luck out and find a perfect description across, all the resources that I go to, I don't feel good about putting IDs to any of these type things.
Okay.
Because what's the scale on this? Like centimeter? Couple centimeters?
Just a second.
It looks like a white Calocera, but it's not, because I don't think there is a white Calocera.
Give me just a second here. Here we go. All right, so if we turn this, so you can see it's maybe 2 centimeters tall. These are centimeters. So that's a centimeter, half a centimeter. So I'd say about an inch tall or so.
Really cool find.
Yeah.
No idea. No idea what the heck it is.
So let's go back here. And
yeah, like some of those photos go on to the next one, but the moose horn that Dave previously mentioned, as well as Calicera venosa, which is like the stag's horn, those things had that very clear, they look like horns, right?
Right. So this is from my neighborhood this last week. It's somebody's front yard growing in a line. It wouldn't surprise me if it was growing from buried dead tree root. They took a tree out several years ago next to the sidewalk. I got a light tan spore print from this.
Do you have a name, Mike?
I don't.
Lepista tarda.
Lepista tarda.
Or Lepista sordida. I mean, one of them is a European name. I forget which. I think tarda is the North American name.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a little blue with skills that are a little bit more widely spaced. And I think they grow from like dying grass roots or something. Because they grow on lawns usually. I found it on my lawn a couple of times. And you get a bluet like spore print, like a pale pink, fleshy pinkish kind of print color.
So Dave, before you joined, I think we saw this thing. This looks like that thing. I forget who sent it in. Lydia, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had the discussion about sordata, Dave, which I thought was a European species, and you said the American species is tarda.
Tarda, yeah, they're pretty similar. If you know, I guess they're genetically distinct. I don't really know, but yeah, there's two names that have been used for these little bluet-like things that the gills are a little bit different and they're smaller. They grow on lawns. Lepista tarda, Lepista sordida, and some sources will list them under Clatosobi.
Would you say that compared to Nuda, the stipe is a little less robust?
Yeah, stipe is thinner and it's a little more fibrous.
Cool. Yeah, this is our conversation that we had before you joined, and I'm glad that you put a name to something that we saw earlier, tarda. Possibly.
Okay,
yeah, damn
right.
ringer.
I'm pretty sure that's what this is.
Yeah, the gills were white. In the photo I showed, they looked lilac because of the light from the stalk, but they're very white gills.
But you got a spore print color, right, Mike? You said,
right,
and it was pale, like off-white, like
yeah, a pale tannish, pinkish.
Tannish. Yep. Yeah, that's Lepista. That's Lepista tarda. That's what those are.
Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I been thinking about checking out West Virginia myself. Any recommendations on a place to go?
Well, we went to Holly River State Park, which is the second largest state park, and they have really nice cabins built in the 30s that have been redone like 8 or 10 years ago. So they have kitchens and showers and heat pumps. But they're not open in the winter. You have to go. The season closes, I think, mid-October, And if you want to collect, you need to get a permit from the state park and also from the wildlife division. So you should allow like 2 months to get a permit. So I applied ahead of time, and I said I would dry vouchers and donate them to the state herbarium at Elkins and Davis College.
Wow. Okay. All right. You say Holly River?
Yeah.
Holly
If you want information about how to apply for a permit, let me just put my email in the chat.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Mike, did you have any more fungi you wanted to share? Or are you all done?
No, that'll do for tonight.
Nice. Really cool stuff. And I see the patient in the background. I hope she's doing okay.
Oh, she's feeling better. She's icing her foot.
Good.
Her foot fell asleep and she didn't realize it, and got up and heard this little crack and hit the floor. And I thought,
Oh.
uh-oh, hope she didn't break her foot again. And they x-rayed it and found no break. So we're both relieved.
I imagine so. All right, so we are at 9 o'clock. This is our normal ending time for Taxonomy Tuesday. Sometimes during the summer, we go over the limit, and I'm absolutely happy to go ahead and keep hosting. I have some observations from Dave if he wants to hang around and continue sharing. Anyone that wants to drop off, appreciate you being here. Otherwise, Dave, you good to go? You want to share?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll go quickly through them. There's a couple of highlights in these. I think I have 5 MO observations here. The first one, I believe, is the Lexinum holopus that I mentioned before. By the way, can you see me tonight? As my camera's probably still.
We can see you, Dave.
Yeah, unfortunately. Just kidding. Yes, Dave, we can see you. Keep talking about your
I comb my hair and everything. Okay, anyway, yeah, this is check out these pictures, the close-ups of the stipes. By the way, let me just briefly describe here. Lexinum holopus is a very pale Lexinum, so you'll see scabers on the stalks. The scabers are usually pretty pale. I guess they darken with age. One of the things that sets apart Lexinum holopus is that the cap will often stain like an aquamarine blue-green sort of color in situ. And you see it on that one right there. You see that little staining on the cap there? That's a typical holopus trait. It's a birch associate. At least that's where I find it. And if you look at some of the close-up, the other photos, there's close-ups of the stipe. And it's interesting because it's almost like a reticulate pattern. Igor was mentioning on some of those Snellii type things he found, or that he was studying. Stipe was kind of reticulate. So there's other photos there that the second and third ones show that a little better. If I don't know if you can zoom that. But it's like a sub-reticulation sort of. It's a longitudinal. See what I mean? That's pretty interesting, isn't it? For a Lexinum, I thought. It's not quite a reticulation, but it's close.
Yeah, and it's got the scabers like on the
ridges. Yeah, it's
on the ridges, right?
Mm-hmm.
The crests of these little.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Cool.
That's pretty interesting, I thought.
What else?
They were pretty good size too, those Lexinum. They were probably 6 inches or more tall.
So how do you describe this? So the erect little bumps you call scabers. What do you call the striations vertically on the stipe?
Well, you can call them longitudinal striations that are sort of wavy, or you can even call that like a subreticulum because it's almost reticulate. It's almost making a pattern, like a chain like pattern.
Yeah, when I see reticulate, I think like a net, right? Like a fishing
Yeah,
net.
net like a netting. Yeah, yeah.
And this reticulation, if this were a fishing net, right? This would be an elongated kind of fishing net down here, stretched out.
Yeah, and it's not real distinctly reticulate, so that the little ridges are not real thin thread like projections. They're it's I thought it was interesting though for Alexinum to be to look almost reticulate.
That's neat.
So
Like the
that's that one.
gills of Craterellus.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like false reticulation, like the
Yeah, it's like
false gills.
false
Ah,
reticulation almost. Yeah.
nice find, David. I like this guy.
Yeah, these are really cool. Yeah, it's Leuco. I believe it is a prefix that means pale or white, and it refers to the spores or the gills. So this looks like a foliota. Looks like Foliota squarosoides or squarosus, sort of, but it has white spores. So it's not foliota. It's Leucofoliota decorosa. It's a really impressive looking mushroom. It has the most of the lower part of the stipe is sheathed in I guess it's a universal veil, really. Um, and then that terminates in a ring usually, and the ring is scaly as well. So it's an impressive looking mushroom when you find it. It grows on wood.
I found this in West Virginia too.
Yeah, and the 2007 NAMA foray in Pipestem, West Virginia. Leucofoliota was like the star of the show. It was one of the only things found, really. It was a terrible drought. And anyway, yeah, that's actually where I learned the species, was at that foray in West Virginia. So that's the spores. They're not terribly interesting, but I always, if I find something that I think is a nice specimen or interesting or a species I don't see a lot, I'll try to get a photo of spores. If somebody wants dimensions, I can at least go to my photo and get a rough estimate.
Yeah, I have a question about the spores. I mean, all Foliota spores kind of have this general shape with like a little. They're not quite mitriform, but they have a little bit of an angle to them. Is that right?
Yeah, Foliota spores are smooth. I think sometimes they have a germ pore, so they look almost truncate. These don't really look like Foliota spores. These are a little bit more pointy on the one end. The mushroom itself looks like a Foliota.
Oh,
That's where
yeah.
the Leucofoliota comes from.
Yep. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I forgot we were looking at a Leucofoliota and not a Foliota. Nice.
Yeah, those don't really look like Foliota spores. Anyway, so what do we have next? Oh,
Osis.
yeah, it's a birch associate. I find it in Hickory Run State Park. It's this one area of Hickory Run State Park that's a lot of birch and rhododendron on the understory, maybe some hemlocks. I find this species, and the other photos show what's interesting about it. The margin of the cap extends really far. It's almost like a partial veil. It's not called a partial veil though. That's just hairs on the margin of the cap. They call that. And when it's even a little younger, it goes even further. Look at that one. It looks like a partial veil. I mean, don't ask me how you tell this is not a partial veil. It kind of looks like it to me, but it doesn't make a ring. It never makes a ring. It always just ends up being a beard, what they call a beard on the cap margin. So this is a bearded Lactarius. There's a few species of bearded Lactarius.
So if this thing was in maturity, it would have, like what would look like universal veil material.
Yeah, it would look like the cap was appendiculate. It would look like it had material hanging from the margin. It would be, and they would, once it spreads out, this breaks apart and becomes little hairs. But it's a lot of little hairs. So they call them bearded Lactarius.
That's really cool. Never seen that before.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yep.
And these are not globose, but it looks like they have little projections coming from them. The spores.
Yeah, all Lactarius. These are mounted in melters, and you need to mount Lactarius spores in melters to see the ornamentation. Same with Russulas. And all Russulas and Lactarius spores have amyloid warts. So the spores darken in melters because of the warts and the ridges. And I probably put in the notes here what sort of patterning I found for the ornamentation. So this is through my monocular scope. It's an old scope. It's beat up. I get the pictures I get are good enough to estimate spore dimensions and see the general shape, but you don't see the ornamentation very well. I have a better at 400 times I was able to assess the ornamentation, and I put here in the notes probably spores with these were small warts, only a half a micron, and some zebroid, which means that the ridges are like form these almost parallel lines, many with scattered angles, few with partial reticulum. So it was kind of varied. The ornamentation was kind of varied on these, and I believe that one of the resources I checked had a fairly similar sort of description. It might have been Mushroom Expert. I'm not sure. They're pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was completely unaware that there were Lactarius that had this. You can't call it a veil, right? Whatever it is.
They don't call it a veil. Yeah. So this is the type species for genus Cortinarius violaceus. And I think it's in a section or subgenus of Cortinarius for which this is like maybe the only species in this subgenus or the section. There might be one other one.
The dry one, the dry purple one, right?
Yeah, it's dry. It looks grainy. There's a couple of shots of the cap that are fairly close up, and you can see the texture. It looks kind of like sandpaper. That one's mainly just to see the nice color. It's a really cool. This is a really striking mushroom to find, and I don't find it very often. And when I do find it, there's usually only one. So here, if you can close up on this, you can see it looks like sandpaper kind of. Yeah, the texture of the cap looks like sandpaper.
Yeah.
So it's the photos don't really do it justice. When you see one of these in the woods, it really, really jumps out at you because it's this really, really nice purple color.
Yeah, and we now I already forget the Sordata lookalike that we have in America. I forget what the name, Tarda, I think it was.
Oh, the Lepista Tarda, yeah.
Yeah, we had one of those submitted earlier before yours or Lauren's or someone's. But this Cortino on the margin here, like don't eat this thing. Right?
Oh yeah, I would not eat any Cortinarius. Well, I did a long time ago. I ate a few. I do eat. I'm sorry. I take that back. I eat Cortinarius caperatus because it's an easy to identify species that is a very good edible. In a long time ago, I ate some Cortinarius mushrooms that the Audubon manual said were edible. And in fact, I once ate Cortinarius alboviolaceus. At least that's what I thought it was. But now that I know better, I don't know if it was Cortinarius alboviolaceus. All I could say really was that it was a Cortinarius from subgenus Ceraceocybe, because there's a bunch of them that really look the same. This thing is pretty distinctive, but I still wouldn't eat it. I've also eaten Cortinarius iodes and Cortinarius armillatus, and well, this other thing that I thought was Cortinarius alboviolaceus. They all taste like dirt, basically. None of them are any good. So you know, you see these like really
brave
colorful
man.
and you think like, whoa, they might have some really interesting flavor. They taste like dirt. You know, Cortinarius caperatus is good. It has a very nice flavor and texture. And for a long time, Cortinarius caperatus was put in its own genus, Rosites, because it's really a lot different than most Cortinarius mushrooms.
I'm going to start calling you Dave McIlvaine.
Yeah, I don't so much anymore, but I have tried a lot of different kind of mushrooms over the years. And well, the Audubon had a lot of things listed as edible. Some I found out are not necessarily all that good, or I mean, I got sick on Rusula compacta. The Audubon says it's edible. So anyway, Gary Linkoff wrote the Audubon book because he was actually trying to write a novel about a survivalist and who needed to learn about edible things in the wild. So that was his sort of primary motivation for learning mushrooms. And so there is an emphasis on edibility in the Audubon guide. I don't know if the new one's like that. I haven't seen the new one.
Yeah, the new one does not have that edibility kind of vein as Linkoff's.
Okay.
As well as it's just a terrible resource guide. They have the worst pictures.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. They emphasize like beauty, like taking cool photographs, like putting a really pretty picture on the page, but then they leave all the identifying features out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I asked the author, Jacob Kalishman, if he was required to come up with common names, and he said that he was. He said he likes common names now because I guess he had fun making some up. I don't know. But
yeah, I could see that. That sounds like a fun name. I've heard the story of trying to come up with common names for mushrooms from a publisher, like putting the pressure on the author of it. And yeah, I've heard some fun stories of just trying to come up with random common names.
Well, Gary Linkoff was required to have a common name for every entry in the Audubon. The publisher requires it for all their field guides. So look at this thing. This is a hedgehog mushroom. It's a hydnum species, and I don't know the new taxonomy for the North American hydnum species, so I didn't bother trying to put a species name on this. But look at this thing; it's pretty big. Big, robust. The spines are not real long. They come down the stalk. I probably, if I really wanted to do some research, I probably could come up with a name for this. But it seems pretty distinctive, right? It's gigantic. It's this beige colored thing, and actually, Karen found this on our. We had a club for last Saturday, and she just went off in another direction.
Did you split it, Dave?
Did I split it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sort of beigey inside. It looks the same inside as it does outside. We ate it. I made it into I put it in Hydnum hash, which is just like I diced it, diced onions and potatoes and a little bit of sweet pepper and fried it all in a great big skillet until started getting a little crispy. It's really good. Hydnum combines really well with potatoes actually, so it was really good. Yeah, it's just I found this probably the same species as well in other places. Usually I find these in beech woods. These great big ones that are beige colored.
Yeah, Dave, normally when I find a big old hedgehog, the teeth are really long. This doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these have short teeth. Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all I had to say is just when they're really big and open like this, normally the teeth are really long and fragile and they kind of break apart in whatever you're trying to cook them in, but these have short, stubby teeth. So, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, it depends on what I'm putting Hydnum mushrooms into when I'm cooking. Sometimes I scrape off the spines if I don't want them to fall off and coat the rest of what they're in, because it can affect the mouthfeel in a negative way. But these I didn't bother to do that, and when you make potato hash, you fry it for a long time, so everything's becomes somewhat homogenous anyway, so it didn't really matter. But it was good. It was a good dish. Tasted really good.
And what kind of lead do you have on a name for this thing? Like, do we just call this?
I don't know yet. I have to do some research and catch up on the new North American Hydnum taxonomy. I don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be able to track this down. I mean, look at this thing. It's pretty distinctive.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, though, that everything in Hydnum that isn't clearly like umbilicatum or something like that, but even umbilicatum, they're all just being called Repandum group, I think. I don't know.
I believe that the recent studies, there's been some recent studies on Hydnum and in North America, and I think they've found something like 13 species on the continent or something like that. So I just don't know the names yet.
Yeah, that's not your share. Was that your last one?
Oh, there might have been a couple others.
No, I think that was it.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing, Dave.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. I actually have also, I didn't make the post yet, but yesterday I found these little whitish amanitas. They're clearly something in section Phylliidae. The gills were a little bit pinkish on the one. They were some sort of destroying angel. The KOH turned faintly yellow on the cap, 10% KOH. So pretty interesting, and hopefully I'll have that one posted by next week so I can talk about that one.
Cool. Well, since anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I could quickly show some photos of the leucofoliota from West Virginia.
All right. I have a few that I want to share as
well.
Oh,
never mind. Forget. I can do that next week.
If we have a second.
While you're bringing that up, let me just plug. There's something, I don't know if people are seeing it at the bottom of the Taxonomy Tuesday emails. October 8th, Len Boddy from University of Cardiff is having a kind of an all-day lineup of international speakers to celebrate fungi. So maybe people want to tune into something there. It's free. It's completely free. So if you're looking for something to do on October 8th and you want to do it virtually, check that out.
Nice. Thank you, Lila. And I didn't notice that, so I appreciate that heads up. And anyone that might be close to anyone in South Jersey, I'm going to be helping out the Maurice Bluffs River organization IDing fungi this upcoming Saturday at Parvin State Park. So if anyone that's still here wants to show up at Parvin to look at mushrooms with me, I would appreciate it. I'm going to send out an email to some people coming up here in the future. But yeah, I got a couple things that I need help on or want an opinion on. I would love for people to poke holes in what I have here. So I'm calling this Gymnopus spongiosis. I believe that's how you say it. It's growing off of deciduous leaf litter, twigs. This is a holly leaf right here. I have it staged on a maple leaf. But you can see that the foot is tomentose, like woolly tomentose. The stipe apex is also tomentose, pretty woolly as well. The gill attachment, I don't even think really helps in regards to these. So I didn't really focus on it all that much. This is it in situ, just growing right off of this holly leaf here. Got a beautiful orange cap, kind of fades to white towards the margin. But I think the reason I feel confident about spongiosis over there's 4 or 5 other species in Gymnopus that have the hairy foot and hairy stipe, but these lack, I think they lack the dark pigmentation in the Callocystidia. So this is cystidia from the stipe apex. And from what I can see, yeah, I have a dirty kind of eyepiece, which has smudges all over it, so it's tough to see. But these Callocystidia all over here, they don't have this kind of dark pigmentation in them, which would lean towards one of the other 5 in this particular Gymnopus group. One of which is Erythropus. I don't know. Anyone ever delved into these before?
Yeah, a little bit. Semi-Hardipes is a spring species. It looks like, what is it, spongiosis? Is it spongiosis or spongiosipes? I guess it's spongiosis.
I think yeah, spongiosis.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks the same, but it's a spring species, and it's not quite as hairy on the stipe. But I don't know the other one. What was that other one? Erythropus. I don't think I know that one.
So there's Erythropus, Alcalinensis, and a couple more. And Alcalinensis, they all have features in KOH, I think, some alkaline type thing. And it's one of those things where that alkaline mounting agent reacts with either the Callocystidia or the spores. I didn't even measure the spores for these because they're all exactly the same size. But spongiosis was kind of, I whittled it down, which lacks dark pigmentations and crystals.
So if you mount like gill material or even spores in KOH, you might get some information.
Yes. Yeah. Big time. Wait, was it gill material?
Oh, I'm sorry, but you were talking about Colocystidia, so that would be the stipe.
Right. And actually, I take that back. I need to go back to my notes. This might have just been in water, and three of those other four have the black pigmentation, or what I would call crystals, in the Calocystidia, but this one didn't. But they all react to KOH on the cap, as well as some of them on the spores. So
Yeah. A lot of these gymnopus, like these guys, they turn green in KOH. I think on the cap.
yep, that's one of the ways to tell them apart. Well, if they turn green and they have the hairy, any portion of the stipe is hairy, and they turn green, they put it in. Um, Michael Quebec at least puts it in a classification of one of four mushrooms that it could be, and then breaks it down based on uh, black pigmentation in the Calocystidia. So I wasn't sure if anyone knew these things, but that's what I've learned in the past week on them. Go on to another one.
That's a cool
So
find.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been finding really cool stuff that has been driving me crazy because I can't. It's tough to find answers for things sometimes that you don't find often. Like this thing, which I'm calling Pluteus chrysophlebus. Um, it's a yellow thing, yellow stipe, yellow cap. Here you can see the yellow stipe. Here you can see the yellow cap that also has this kind of wrinkled texture, kind of striate toward the margin, which fits for this particular species that I've never found before.
How big is this?
Pretty small, inch and a half tall by maybe an inch wide on the cap.
Yep.
Here you can see the free gills that are, this thing's in maturity, so it's already starting to show some pink in the gills. This is an in situ photo coming right off of the hardwood. And this is a completely hardwood forest. There's no pines whatsoever. But this is a very Pluteus cystidia type thing. It doesn't have the section Pluteus kind of star-shaped apex to it, but it's got that vase shape, which fits. And then the spores, those are very Pluteus spores. I might have measurements down here. Where are my remarks? Anyone have an opinion on that? Could it be something else?
I think there's one Pluteus leoneus or something, but I don't think. Does this one have a striate cap margin?
It does, and it doesn't have any presence of brown. There's some shadowing down here in the bottom right, but
yeah.
I think from my understanding of Leoneus, it's going to have like a brownish center.
Yeah, greenish kind of. Yeah, this looks like, what is it? Trisoblebium?
Yep. Yeah.
Trisophlebius. Yeah, used to be admirabilis. It was easy to remember then. I guess that's a European species. Yeah, before about 7 years ago or 10 years ago, it was admirabilis, which I think is a European name. So some of the older field guides are going to call it admirabilis. The admirable.
On
Yeah.
Michael Kuo's site, his photos of it have brown around the center.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
So the Leonius thing I also read was larger and majority of West Coast species. I'm not sure that that's an East Coast thing, Leonius.
Yeah, I think I found Leonius because I'd have to double check, but I think I actually gave some to Fredo Justo and he had them sequenced, and I think there was at least one collection that was Leonius.
Oh.
My Leonius, I think, were small and kind of green. Actually, I'd have to look it up. It's on Mushroom Observer. If you look on Mushroom Observer, you'll find my post.
Yeah, I need to check that out because again, I've only been these have only been on my radar. I've been looking for yellow Pluteus for a while, but that was the first one I ever found. And that's why I learned about the rugosus or Rangio rugosus or whatever. So this was really cool. These are growing on sweet gum, the sweet gum balls.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you can see that, let's zoom in a little bit.
Cool.
Off, yeah. And I originally thought, well, I had no idea. I thought maybe Bisporella, whatever. And then on this photo, it's tough to see, but you can see that kind of elongated partial veil, kind of like you would see in a Galerina, like a swamp Galerina, like Galerina hybnorum, where that partial veil just kind of stretches up the stipe. It's not a great photograph of that, but you can kind of see it there. Just, the way these things are growing. And it's funny because this is growing, you can't make it out here, but that is a sweet gum leaf. So these are coming off of the husks, but this is coming off of a leaf. Kind of cap, and you can see it's granular. Underneath that granular layer, you can see it's partially striate. There's some veil remnants on the margin here. These are the spores. Hopefully I put some notes in there. Dang, I have them in a book, but I'm not going to go for it right now. Kind of some of them bigutulate. But the overall spore morphology, and I know I checked it. I'll pull my book out here. It's outside. I'll get it in a second. But the spore size matched. I didn't find anything cystidia-wise to support Tubaria conspirosa or conspersa. But I think that's what these are. I don't know if anyone's ever found that before.
I think I've found this before, and it looks like what you have. And I think you're probably right about this.
Did you ever find it growing on the sweet gum specifically?
No,
Because,
just leaf litter and twigs and stuff, just like forest litter.
Yeah, because that's what I've seen for these things, and I was looking more for something that specifically grows on the liquid ambar, the what is it, sweet gum. But I think that's what this is. So it's cool that you found it too.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I wasn't totally convinced, but what you found looks like what I found and called Tubaria conspersa.
Cool. And what do we got? Let's do maybe one more. Let's look at this and hopefully I can confirm to myself that I know how to identify this thing. So I'm calling this Foliotus squarosoides, growing on a standing dead tree. It was a hardwood. There were no pines in this forest whatsoever. These these are like spikes, and they were stiff in situ. So you couldn't wipe them away or anything like that. They remained on the cap. These gills show, in my opinion, no green tinges, which is something you want to look at if you're considering squamosa or whatever it is.
Squarosa.
Squarosa, thank you. Yeah, I think at this point you still can't tell the difference between squarosa and squarosoides, unless I'm wrong. But the spores lack a germ pore, which is important because squarosa has a germ pore and is a little more elongate, so the Q ratio is different. But again, here you can kind of see no germ pore, and these were smaller than squarosa. And then this is the other thing you want to look at. So these cystidia throughout the mushroom, and they were in abundance. I mean, this is smash mouth, so I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they are in abundance. They show no reflective qualities. So my understanding is that squarosa, these cystidia have these little refractive kind of, glass looking type deals throughout them, mostly in the base. And I didn't see any of that. So here's one here. Here's one that goes all the way down. You can see that. Here's one over here. 1, 2, 3. There's another one down here. And none of them have that refractive quality, I think, that you would find in squarosa. I'm sorry. And these spores, I did put them down here. So they're also smaller than squarosa. I had them under 5 by about 3.3. So 4.96 by 3.3, 3.3. And I think squarosa starts, I didn't measure a single spore that was over 6 microns. And I think squarosa starts 6 to 8. So I feel good about this ID. I don't know if anyone has any opinions on it, because I'm looking for holes to be punched in my theory here.
Yeah, I get stuck on the difference between squarosa and squarosoides. One of them smells like onions, I think.
Garlic.
Garlic. Okay, garlic. And I think the spore size is different for the two species. I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check on that.
That's what I've read. Was that squarosa has the larger spores between 6 and 8, and squarosoides has between like 4 and 6. And it was idyllic because I measured no spores that were above like 5.5. And they averaged out to like 4.9. So the largest of them was 5.5 and didn't reach that six number. So
Was the cap sticky at all?
You know, I didn't check for that, Mike. I didn't know that was a thing I should be looking for. It's got that like glutinous layer, right?
Under the scales, yeah.
Under the scales, right? Yeah, I didn't check for that, so I'm not sure. But also the shape of the cystidia. See how it's got these little finger-like projections?
Yeah.
There, all of them have that. And as far as I know, that's not recorded in sclerosa. They're more just, I don't know, the might go speak for it, but they don't have the little finger on top.
And you didn't see an apical pore in the spores.
Right. That was the other distinguishing factor that I had. The spores did not have a germ pore.
I think you got it.
Cool. Yeah, I agree, because that's what the name I put on it. But again, looking for people to poke holes in it. So, but it seems like sclerosa, those spores are larger and they have an obvious germ pore. So I think maybe the spores are just, that's the way to tell them apart, I think. All right. We're at 9:47. I think that'll probably do it for me, unless we want to look at like 15 different kind of mycena that I'm struggling with, but we'll save that for a different time. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share or talk about? All right, cool. Well, appreciate everyone hanging out. This was a fun session. Everyone have a great night and go Phillies.
Thanks for hosting, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Phillies are ahead 3-0.
Oh, I got it on.
Yeah.
Cool. Night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Night,
Good night.
Igor. Night, Brandon. Night, Dave.
Good night.